Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We're documenting the journey of incredible entrepreneurs such as Kim Minert. You're my new BFF.
I am your new BFF.
And BFF stands for Burn Fat for Fuel. Look, I never met anybody who's written this thick of a book.
Really?
No.
Well, there's recipes in the back.
It's still, it's just really a thick book, so you must know what you're talking about.
That's right.
You do?
I do.
Shake my hand.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tell me about the book and what got you to write this book. Burn Fat for Fuel, Lose Weight, Beat Diabetes, Your New BFF.
Well, what drove me to write this book was after I became a diabetic, and it pushed me to learn about the disease. And when I learned about the disease, I realized that it affects so many people in our world. It's an epidemic, and it's one of the few diseases that we can control and don't have to take medicine. A lot of other chronic diseases aren't under our control. But with diabetes, there's a lot we can do ourselves to stay healthy.
Forgive my ignorance. Diabetes, and this is, I guess, part of educational for me. You said you contracted diabetes.
I did.
Are we born with a specific gene that we have the diabetes, something that we probably got from our parents? Because you're saying you contracted it. How did that happen?
Well, diabetes does run in families.
Okay.
Particularly type 2 diabetes. Now,
Correct.
There's the two types, type
Yes.
1 and type 2. And that's one of the most asked questions that I get. What is the difference?
All right.
So type 1 is something that you do have in your gene pool, and it's usually triggered by some sort of virus. It's an autoimmune disease, and your body attacks your pancreas and kills off your insulin-producing cells, which causes you to be insulin resistant from day one.
Right.
Type 2 diabetics have it in their family, mom, dad, aunts, uncles, and it's a lifestyle development disease. So along with their lifestyle and their genes and their age, there's a number of risk factors that people have. And so if they can see the writing on the wall and get to it early enough, they never have to become diabetic.
Gotcha. So in other words, you are prone genetically to have this diabetes, and if you're not treating your body rightly, eating the right foods, exercising, doing all the right things, then your chances of acquiring diabetes
Yes.
then increase
Exactly.
incredibly
Exactly.
high. Okay. And so you write this book.
Yeah.
You have diabetes, and did people see you differently? Did people stigmatize you because you had diabetes?
Well, a lot of people look at me and say, but you're not overweight.
And that's what I was going to. Right.
And
you don't look like you have diabetes.
Right, because I do have type 1 diabetes. So type 1 diabetics don't make insulin. And the secret that people don't know is that insulin is what stores fat. So if my body's not producing insulin, I'm not a fat storing machine.
Right.
But if someone is making insulin or making too much insulin, then they do store fat. And again, that's the type of diabetes that we mostly talk about. 90% of diabetics are type 2, and it is preventable.
It is preventable, and your book helps us understand how to prevent
Exactly.
diabetes.
So we went with the title, Your New BFF, Burn Fat for Fuel. Now there's a dual message there. I am your new BFF.
Of course you are.
And I can help you. A BFF is your cheerleader, it's your friend, it's the person who's willing to tell you the hard truth even when it doesn't feel good, but they do it because they have a desire to help you and they love you and care about you. So it's your new BFF that helps you burn fat for fuel. And we can burn the fat, and as a result of that step, we will lose weight and we will beat diabetes. We will beat it by preventing it, and we will beat it by getting off of drugs and actually reversing the disease.
Can you reverse the disease?
I can't. So type 1 diabetics are insulin resistant.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, they are insulin dependent. But by eating the way I eat and the way I talk about eating in this book, I can take less insulin, which means I store less fat. And you know, girls don't want to store fat, do we?
And we were talking about eating right. I mean, you don't deprive yourself of the foods that you like, but rather you've learned how to eat rightly in the right foods.
I've learned to really like and enjoy the right foods.
Right.
When it comes to deprivation, there are certain foods I do not eat. You know, I walk away from an
Such
apple
as?
fritter, donuts. I used to be a sugar addicted.
So we're not going to the Maricopa County Fair or anything like that and having those.
No, we bring a bottle of water and. But the thing of it is that the cravings are gone because of the way I eat. So by keeping my body fueled with fat, I have a constant sense of fulfillment. So I'm not craving those sugary treats.
So essentially, what you're saying in your book is you kind of change your behavior and your
Yes.
attitude toward food.
Yes, absolutely. And there are several chapters in the book. Maybe
Okay.
that's why it's a thick book, because when we have behavioral change in our life, we need to be motivated. We need to have tools. So this book is full of tools to help people make those changes so that they don't have to be sick and go blind and lose limbs, because those are things that happen to people with diabetes.
Correct. And you have your new BFF also on CD.
I do. You could pop it into your car. It's 6 chapters of this book,
Right.
the most critical portions of the book to teach people how to do the program. It's very inspiring.
You are a speaker and you go around the nation speaking about this thing.
Yes.
Does it get frustrating sometimes where, I mean, you're sending this message out and yet you still see people that are prone to have diabetes still after all this education, hey, look, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't change your behavior, if you don't change your habits, and you're still eating those fritters, and if you're still doing all these wrong things, you are going to get diabetes, and people are still doing it. Is that frustrating? It's got to be frustrating.
It is frustrating. And particularly, I do one-on-one coaching as
Right.
well. And when you're the cheerleader and you want your team to win,
Right.
and sometimes they don't win. You know, it's frustrating. But at the same time, this is such a message of hope. And it's so possible for people to do that. I keep going. And I keep speaking, and I keep teaching, and I keep talking, and some people do have success, and it's a great feeling. It feels great.
I was going to say, conversely, it's got to be just the greatest feeling in the world when your message resonated with someone.
Right.
You affected someone, and that person's life was changed because of what they heard from you.
Right. And I could tell you a brief story about
Please.
that. I have a client who has diabetes, and I talked with him about making some changes, and he wasn't interested until he was diagnosed with cancer. And he went to the doctor, and they said, we can't do your PET scan and see what is up with your cancer until you get your blood sugar under control. And suddenly he picked up the phone, called me, and it took 1 week of diabetes management. We met at Starbucks, we ran over to Albertsons. He says, well, what do I said, do you have what you need at home? I don't know. I said, let's go to the store. So we did a 15-minute trip around the grocery store. He got what he needed, and he called me and said, I got my test, the cancer's gone, and it was wonderful.
I'm gonna do this without my glasses.
Okay.
Can Minert Burn Fat for Fuel, your new BFF. It's a great book, full of recipes, full of wisdom, and your own journey, your own experience.
Right. It was quite a surprise when I was put in the hospital at the age of 44. Most type 1 diabetics are diagnosed as children, young adults, teenagers.
But you were diagnosed
I was 44 years old.
44 years old.
And I consider that a blessing because I didn't have to go through puberty and a lot of life changes, pregnancy, as a diabetic. I was diagnosed at age 44, and I was able to take a look at what would work for me, and with the support and help of my doctor, who wrote the foreword of the book, Dr. Helen Hiltz, and my husband, who's also a type 1 diabetic, I was able to get a handle on it pretty early in the game.
You're a superwoman.
Oh.
Is there something you can't do?
I try to do almost everything. I always overbook myself. That's part of being an entrepreneur,
I
right?
overbook myself.
I mean, come on. Give me some more to do, and I'll tackle it.
You're awesome. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you.
It's an honor.
Thank you.
And I really respect the education aspect of what you're doing, because now you're sharing your journey. You're sharing the pain, the victory that you have in your journey with other people.
Right, and it's good to know there's some good news about diabetes.
Good news about diabetes. Thank you for coming.
You bet. Thanks.
We're out.